It's coming! Let me in!
No big deal, folks. That's just some nameless crew member of the starship Maginot who's trying to die as casually as possible with the kind of emotion you'd put into leafing through last year's edition of Popular Mechanics while waiting to see the optometrist, and this is Alien Earth, the Peter Pan version, where Tinkerbell is probably an uploaded consciousness with zero character development. And before I say another word, here's a preemptive FU to all the fanboys getting ready to don their helicopter hats to do battle with anyone who speaks against this Hollywood treacle. Because you're exactly the kind of people Noam Chomsky was talking about when he wrote the book about manufactured consent. Hello again, everyone. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Today's review of Alien Earth stars a bunch of Gen Alpha babies masquerading inside the artificial body of a Zoomer. And in what has to be the show's biggest plot twist, none of the characters manage to blame the older generations for their personal failure. The story is set exactly 100 years after the US and Chinese government fooled the world into thinking COVID was just an accident. And similar to 100 years prior, humanity is still dealing with a genetically engineered outbreak, this time in the form of the infamous xenomorph. Alien Earth begins with an undisclosed moment just before an alien outbreak where the crew of a deep space research vessel called the USCSS Maginot has been tasked by the Weyland-Yutani Company to collect the most dangerous species in the universe. Things predictably go wrong, but we're not sure why because the story immediately cuts to a remote island where a rival corporation runs Prodigy City, the Maginot's eventual crash site, which demands to be haphazardly investigated by the Gen Alpha kids still trying to get used to the idea of having breasts. And Gene, if you didn't know that this TV series was created by the same guy who made Fargo, you'd almost think it was written by a college student who never had so much as a job mowing lawns, because the level of world building here is so farcical that it leaves you wondering if there's more to the Peter Pan references than meets the eye.
That's right. And how much more on the nose can you get with the lead character renaming herself Wendy once her consciousness gets transferred into the artificial body? Then comes a scene where she jumps off a 1,000-foot crag onto a beach and sticks the landing better than an Olympic gymnast without so much as a scratch. Within 15 or so minutes, they managed to marvelize the alien universe.
And I bet that fanboy response you mentioned would probably be some sort of assumption that synths and hybrids are indestructible, which is amusing when you consider the fact that a later model like Bishop got shredded faster than toilet paper, while Ash had his head knocked off by a black guy who probably wasn't even good at baseball.
People will say, relax, we're only 2 episodes in. But Roger, that's already a quarter of the story, and the whole thing's built on plot contrivances galore. The crash site just happens to be a remote island that just happens to be the Tech Bros headquarters. They conveniently tell us that only kids' minds are capable of a consciousness transfer. The Wendy girl just happens to have a long-lost brother who happens to be a first responder. And those first responders arrive at a disaster scene with weapons because why bring gurneys and medical equipment when you can just shoot the poor bastard who's buried under a mountain of steel?
Definitely not the people I'd want to be rescued by. But what baffles me into a near comatose state is where entire scenes give way to pointless conversations that exist only to inform the audience about the current situation. Character A tells character B, "Jim, how long have we been brothers? In the 5 years since Mom died, you've been drowning your sorrows in alcohol." I'm not lying to our viewers when I say there's a scene where the pecking order of corporate dominance has to be explained to a character because he didn't pay attention in social studies class.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Noah Hawley overslept when they were teaching the class on how to bury exposition, but it gives way to total nonsense. You have a young man on a research vessel who just went on a 65-year research mission, and he doesn't even know who he's working for. Meanwhile, that pales in comparison to the motivation of his boss, a gazillionaire tech bro who owns Weyland-Yutani's biggest rival company. When he reveals that his entire motivation for supercharging humans stems from a deep longing to have a nice conversation with someone.
And speaking of nice conversations, the Wendy girl has a post-op conversation with the tech bro about what she can expect from the transfer when you'd think somebody would have covered that in the consultation. Then another weird exchange between her and the Timothy Oliphant character. She asks why he doesn't have kids, and he starts talking about low sperm count to a 9-year-old. This is Alien? What the hell are we even watching?
Then we almost get another do stupid things, win stupid prizes moment when one of them hangs around an alien plant long enough to almost remind you of the idiot scientist in Prometheus who screwed around with a space snake only to find out he didn't like being constricted to death.
Those are exactly the kind of dunderheads you get here when the soldiers do a sweep of the building the starship just crashed into, only to find a party where wealthy people literally dressed as 18th century aristocrats aren't even aware of the impact with their own building. The host literally blows off the soldiers, and in a development you can see coming from a mile away, the Xeno just happens to show up to kill everyone there.
More of an idiocracy than an aristocracy, and damn it, Roger, how is it always the case with this franchise that everyone has their brains fall out of their head before the alien can even show up to eat them? There's literally no character development, and the only thing we know for sure is that they're all stupid. There isn't a single scenario presented in this series that realistically resembles an intelligent decision or choice.
It's also worth noting that whoever's getting paid to do the CGI effects should probably give reparations to every single person who's forced to look at it. Because, Gene, my niece's crayon scribble looks better than this. Once again, you have a movie with a $250 million budget that manages to make an infected cat look like Garfield high on ayahuasca.
If we're talking about reparations, then I'd like my time back as well, because this 2-episode slog meanders so much that you get a story that could have been told in 30 minutes drawn out into 2 hours, all because they had to come up with 8 episodes.
Well, buckle up, because we have 6 more episodes to watch.
Makes you really want to punch someone in the nuts. Are you practicing Chinese on me again? I'm about to punch you in the nuts.
Anyway, that's it for this week. Join us next time after we finish kneeling over the very porcelain toilet that's been every Alien fan's best friend since 1992. Until then, we'll see you at the movies, and the balcony is closed.